We'll move on now to the U.S., where the stock index futures pointed to a higher open today after markets closed at new highs on Tuesday, following a rebound in technology stocks. Our traders will now be looking ahead to the second day of the Federal Reserve's two-day policy meeting, in which it is largely expected to raise interest rates and announce its plans for the U.S. balance sheet. The announcement is due at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Also on the agenda today is economic data on the consumer price index, retail sales and business inventories. And of course, those numbers are showing the indices tilting up as Dow Jones Industrial Average 0.11% there, S&P 500 0.06%, and Nasdaq 0.17%. In Asia, equities closed mostly lower as China data came in mostly in line with expectations, and markets await the Federal Reserve's decision on monetary policy. Japan's Nikkei 225 dipped into negative territory to close lower by 0.08%. South Korea's benchmark Kospi index edged lower by 0.09% to finish the session at 2,372.64. The Australian ASX 200 surged 1.06% to close at 5,833.9, with most sub-indices trading higher, led by the strength in the information technology and health sub-indices. Greater China markets traded lower after the release of economic data earlier in the session. The Hang Seng index was off by 0.02%. On the mainland, the Shanghai Composite closed lower by 0.74%. The Shenzhen Composite edged lower too by 0.382%. And to commodities now, oil prices fell around 1% today after data showed a build in U.S. crude stocks, and OPEC reported a rise in its production despite its pledge to cut back on output. Brent crude futures were at $48.28 per barrel, down 44 cents from their last close. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures were at $45.96 per barrel, down 50 cents. Crude prices have fallen by more than 10% since late May, pulled down by a supply glut that persists despite a move led by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries to cut production by almost 1.8 million barrels per day until the end of the first quarter of 2018. OPEC's own compliance with the cuts has been questioned, and the producer group said in a report this week that its output rose by 336,000 barrels per day in May to 32.14 million barrels per day. And to the precious metal market now. Gold inched up today as the market waited for direction from the outcome of a two-day U.S. Federal Reserve meeting, with the central bank expected to hike interest rates and give indications on its monetary policy for the rest of the year. The Fed is scheduled to release its interest rate decision at 2 p.m. Eastern Time today, with Chair Janet Yellen due to hold a press conference 30 minutes later. Higher rates could boost the dollar, making commodities priced in the greenback more expensive for holders of other currencies. Spot gold was up 0.3% at $1,269 per ounce. On Tuesday, it touched its weakest since June 2 at $1,259. U.S. gold futures for August delivery rose 0.2% to $1,271 an ounce. And in Zimbabwe, we're still talking about markets anyway. Zimbabwe-focused investment company Brainworks Limited aims to raise at least $25 million in a stock market flotation in Johannesburg. Brainworks said the listing on Johannesburg Exchange, Africa's deepest and most liquid stock market, is meant to improve access to capital, both debt and equity. Zimbabwe, meanwhile, is struggling with a debt crisis, a fall in foreign exchange inflows and acute shortages of cash that have forced banks to limit withdrawals. Brainworks has not yet set the price for shares or how many will be sold in an initial public offering due for July 21. Brainworks was established in 2011 with a focus of investing entirely in Zimbabwe. The group, headquartered in Mauritius, has stakes in hospitality, real estate and financial services. In the meantime, Zimbabwe's government plans to issue a 3-year $50 million bond to finance irrigation infrastructure in the country, part of efforts to improve its long-term food security. The Southern African nation has struggled to feed itself since 2001, partly due to frequent droughts and President Robert Mugabe's seizures of white-owned farms, which hit commercial agriculture production. And in South Africa, the competition watchdog there has launched an investigation into 3 drug companies accused of overcharging for cancer medicines. The agency will investigate Aspen Pharmacare, Africa's biggest generic drug maker, U.S. company Pfizer, and Swiss-based Roche Holding. The commission, which investigates cases before bringing them to the Competition Tribunal for adjudication, says it suspects the lung cancer treatment Zalocori-Crisonib, sold by Pfizer, had been excessively priced, as has the breast cancer drugs and of course the one sold by Roche. It also said it would look into whether Aspen, a local company based in Durban, might have overcharged for Lucaron, Alkeron and Myleran cancer treatments in South Africa. A quick break now. We'll be back in a moment. To stay with us.